features.
Bonsai. Bonsai.
Bonsai.
It's almost like once you start doing it, you almost have to. Like it's.
Bonsai.
He takes his hand and grabs his hat on top of his head while he's looking at it.
The Black Pondo Podcast.
You can ask me anything. I'll talk about whatever.
Nice. Okay. We could hit on, or we could discuss the topic of quality bonsai on a budget. And it's an interesting topic. I feel like the kind of like the origination for this topic came from probably both of us. I know when I first graduated from UCSB back in 2007, that's when I got into bonsai.
Yeah.
And at the time, I mean, I really did not have very much of a budget, but I was very passionate about bonsai. Was it kind of a similar thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, I started right when I graduated from high school. So at the time when you're just a student, not a lot of, now, like, of course, what I think is expensive as trees when I started versus now, the perspective is different. But just starting out and you're a student or you're working, you can't really afford nicer material. So definitely in the start, it's a struggle to figure out, well, where do I get trees? Where do I get projects to learn on and kind of build from there?
For sure. So, yeah, basically, I was thinking we should talk about this from the perspective of, hey, there's a person that is very interested in bonsai. They're very passionate enthusiast, but they're new to the hobby and have a limited budget. But they have big goals, maybe say the next 5 to 10 years, they would like to show at a big show like the Pacific Bonsai Expo or the National Show. That's kind of the perspective I want to take, but I think it's great if we talk about all different levels. So like, how would you do it if you had to do it on the cheap? What's like a good medium type level? And then high end, what do you think is really solid?
This is like a big question. So we can kind of break it down in a lot of, I guess, different focuses. But say just for the scope of like your end goal in like 5 to 10 years to show at a major exhibition. And I would say that's pretty realistic. That's like a good margin that, from scratch, you could, develop some material and have it show ready. I would say when you are buying material, and especially you're starting out in bonsai, the way I kind of divide like the quality of a material in kind of my perspective, there's always some kind of core features of the tree that is just, I would say it's like hard to change, at least maybe within the scope of your life, right? For like Yamadori, or it can just be a many years or many decades project. So when I think of, say, like the trunk line, primary branches with age, right? So kind of barking. We have Yamadori. We look at like the deadwood features, that raw kind of character. These are things that's like the intrinsic qualities of the tree, and it's almost non-replicable, right? Where, sure, there are techniques to modify the trunk and change the tree, but there's some kind of core identity that it's really, we can't do much to change it. And if we do change it, well, then it's very evident that there's been some kind of manipulation on the tree. That's another aspect we'll talk about later. This idea of natural bonsai, where it is not necessarily we're trying to emulate or mimic nature, but just removing signs that the tree has been worked, and you give the sense that it's been kind of growing that way on its own. So trees like that kind of quality of age, that's something it's hard to replicate. There's not really many shortcuts to produce that. So when you're purchasing material, you're identifying, well, what are these essentially core features that you will build the future tree upon that realistically, right, is something you're going to be hard pressed to change. Maybe you can, but it could be like a lifelong project. And then stuff like your branching, right? You can grow branching, bend branching, you can style the tree. Even we consider the scope of 10 years, which seems kind of long, but for bonsai, it's 10 years is not that long of a time. Those are kind of like the more, I guess, immediate things that's within our scope of development. So, of course, when we're purchasing material, you really, and especially you're looking for value, right? Value for your money, and you're trying to develop material yourself. You don't want to focus, I call, on the kind of the superficial qualities. So maybe the tree's like freshly styled, it may or may not look good, but that kind of final layer of development, in a sense, that's easy to do, right? On developing bonsai, that it's achievable within a few years, let's say like 3 to 10 years, depending on the type of work, of just good technique and health. So I'm kind of like getting off track, but so when you want value in what you're buying, you really need to ignore all that, because if you're buying from an auction site, or any kind of like public viewed venue or whatever, people are going to want to fluff their material. I mean, it makes sense. You want your material looking as pristine, as nice as possible, like impeccable styling, right? But really, for bonsai, which is a very long practiced and long-lived endeavor, all those things are achievable on your own. So if you're starting out and you're doing bonsai on a low budget, or maybe have no budget, I mean, those are things you shouldn't be focusing on at the start. It's just getting that kind of core quality of material, which has some kind of base and identity, kind of which shows those aspects of age. So, I mean, I've kind of like spreading too thin. So let me know if I'm getting off track, or if this makes sense.
No, that's fantastic, man. And I am 100%. If I were to sell a tree, let's say a juniper, for example, I'm going to clean up the lifeline. I'm going to paint the dead wood. I'm going to wire and style the branches and make it look pretty. And as I feel like people should, that's how to get the most money for a tree that you would be selling. However, I think one of the points that I really like that you hit, that I think a lot of newer people into bonsai may not realize, is just that the value of a tree is really within the trunk, I would say. Would you agree? I mean, definitely. Go for it.
I mean, I would say that's mostly true. I mean, kind of like, and when you say trunk, that's kind of the same idea I was talking about, just the core identity of the tree. I mean, parts that you just can't easily grow or change within a reasonable time. I mean, that's kind of the obvious reason why people like and collect Yamadori, because that quality from nature really is non-replicable in the human lifespan. In that sense, it's kind of priceless, right? It's like invaluable. So even though, let's say for the scope of junipers, the branch development, pad development is going to be the same for, a juniper of the same species, right? That trunk is what gives the tree its identity and character. So that's like, I would say definitely, when you're buying material, you need to kind of zone in and focus on these things, because especially starting out, it's very easy to be, I'll say, like distracted or swayed with, oh wow, this aesthetic is like really nice, or this tree looks like super cool this way. But I always tell, so I give like purchasing advice for everybody who's like my student or study groups or customers. So they'll always ask me like, should I buy this tree or should I buy? And I mean, I'll tell them just up front that you have to look beyond the silhouette, right? What do the branches look like? How's the quality of the trunk? Because over the scope of the bonsai's lifespan, realistically, the style and branches can change over time, which, depending on the tree, could be a good or bad thing. But right, it's like the trunk and those core features that it's going to be that common denominator over time. So if it still sucks on like day one, I mean, no matter how good that styling is, it's kind of the limiting factor for its upper potential.
Most definitely. Yeah. The trunk is one of the hardest things to change significantly. You can grow it, you can thicken it, but generally that makes the branches and that makes the tree grow out of shape very quickly.
Exactly. Yeah,
I would say
yeah.
it's like trunk is the hardest thing to change, followed by
Yes.
nabari, and then
Mhm.
branching.
Yeah,
So
definitely agree.
the value is really in the trunk. If you have a high quality trunk, you can make a really nice high quality tree. If you have a low quality trunk, hard to make a very high quality tree.
And I mean
For
that
sure.
those are, I mean, I'll say yeah, generally that's true. I mean, but also since we're on the discussion of kind of bonsai on a budget, it's not that if you did start with cheaper material or something with not an impressive trunk, that it's not possible to make a nice tree over time. But say if you're starting from a more like raw state, as in the tree doesn't have an identity yet. And I'm not speaking about styling, more so just talking about those core features, right? The trunk and whatnot you build upon. I mean, those are things you can still create. I mean, but it just, of course, it can, depending on the type of tree, it can take a lot of time. I always like looking at like forest compositions as a good example of trees that bear some kind of identity and character, but in a sense can be started from a cheaper material, but still have a very high kind of upper limit in terms of potential. I mean, if you look at forest compositions and you start with, I mean, you can start with very young material, right? Like seedlings, saplings, and whatnot, where if you're making a composition where the focus is not just the identity of a single tree but is then layered out by all the different subjects you place in the planting, it becomes less important that your tree has this very impressive individual character. And then you can utilize creating basically a composition that aids to that whatever visual interest. But then the material you use, right, it may just be some juniper cuttings or some young plants you grew, which over time, right, actually you can make excellent trees out of that. So I'll say there is ways to be creative in terms of ideas of what you're making. Of course, sourcing the material as well. But you're always will have an advantage. But if you can start with a higher base quality.
For sure, absolutely. And I really want to back up for a second.
Okay,
We just
sorry, yeah.
jump right into
Yeah,
it. No,
yeah,
which is awesome.
yeah.
And I
Uh-huh.
think it's because we're both just super passionate about bonsai and about trees.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about trees. I want to talk about education, bonsai
Mhm.
education. How do you learn about trees, about tools,
Yeah.
soil, fertilizer, all like basically
Uh-huh.
everything from a
Yeah.
budgeting perspective. But really want to
Uh-huh.
back up first and just ask you the question: do you think that bonsai on a budget or quality bonsai on a budget is a good thing? Like, should we even be focusing on this?
So
What's your thoughts there?
I mean, so irrespective of cost, right? We can like define quality as a measure separate than cost, right? Because the monetary cost of something will be a little bit subjective. Also depends where you live and how accessible it is. You can buy trees. So that's like it's a little like convoluted. And we can say, oh, this tree is worth 1,000. Someone's gonna say it's 500. Some other guy might try to sell it for 5,000, and they may have some varying justification for why. So that's kind of too hard to argue and discuss. So I think it's better we then just take the approach of just what is like quality bonsai, because one guy's budget is going to be different than another person. So hard to establish then what is like cheap, quote unquote, cheap bonsai. So I'll say, but in that scope, yes, you can have nice bonsais for cheaper, right? In the sense that if you are resourceful in terms of the material you look for, and then allocating your time efficiently in terms of, well, you buy material that has, say, good core identity and trunk features, but maybe all the other stuff is not developed. So that brings the cost down, and you invest your time in the quote unquote short term aspects of tree building, like the branches and whatnot, that then is very achievable in that, say, 5 year or whatever scope. In that sense, you can get the highest quality tree with the least monetary effort invested. But for me, I would say the biggest quality outside of, say, like the trunk and whatever, that really determines tree value for me is age, and how well does a tree convey age. It's not that your bonsai is physically old, which, say, in the case of Yamadori, it can be, right, immensely old. But is it old as bonsai, right? Has it been developed as a tree for a long time? And can you tell that it has been developed for a long time? Because it's one thing where you've been working on a tree for 30 years, but say the applied technique or work has to get rebuilt every 3 years. Even though you worked on that tree for 30 years, it may not bear that 30 years of accrued age. So when I think of like quality bonsai, I think of trees that express age well. So there's some sense of maturity and quote unquote naturalness, not speaking to like naturalistic bonsai, right? Like emulating nature, but just natural in the sense that it's not obvious that the tree has been manipulated and contorted by some, exterior source. It feels as if the tree has been growing in that intended form. So I think regardless of your budget to start, right? If you can understand these, like, I would say these core aspects and I would say this identity in bonsai, then from any starting point, you can produce a quality tree, right? It's not unattainable. And especially if you're starting out young and you're serious and you're in bonsai for the long haul, there is like no reason why you can't have like nice trees that you've made yourself, even on a low budget. I mean, as I've gotten more into bonsai over the years, and then over just like working and saving my own money, I mean, my budget for trees have gone up, but I also have trees which started as very cheap or free, like no cost projects that are slowly over time becoming good, which have potential to mature. That's kind of like broad though, because we can then talk about, well, like what are the starting points, and then where do you buy material, right? So this is a huge question.
For sure. Yeah, so many great points there. Absolutely. I guess going back to my initial question, I kind of feel like you shouldn't necessarily always be you shouldn't be trying to do bonsai on the cheap in every way.
Yeah.
I feel like there are areas where you absolutely should try and save your money and put money into these specific areas. But then there's other areas where maybe it's not a bad idea to save some money. I guess one aspect within my life, or one way that I think about things, is if you're really passionate about something, if you really absolutely love it, you should 10x your energy and your money and time into that area, and then figure out other areas within your life where you can cut things out. And definitely when it comes to spending money on things, I think that I would like to see, if someone's really passionate about bonsai, is put more money and time and effort into that, and then reduce other areas. I think that will really help you catapult your goals. Yeah. I mean, that's sorry, you go ahead. No, go for it.
No, I mean, that's like a great point. And I mean, and that's like why I didn't want to describe quality bonsai as being cheap or expensive. Because I think quality bonsai will just be quality bonsai irrespective of the cost. That's just a basis for how we can identify what good trees are. But hold on, I lost my train of thought. Oh my God! So it'll come back to me. You can go ahead first.
Well, there's so much variation in how people value and price trees within the U.S. too, right?
Yeah.
Prices are all over the place, and I get the reasons why. But so I don't necessarily think that you should try and be really cheap and save every penny when it comes to bonsai if you have big goals with bonsai. But at the same time, I do think that there are areas where it would be a better idea to put your money into, as and then there are certain areas where maybe it doesn't matter so much. Like
Yeah.
if you're just starting out in bonsai, you don't need like a full line of Masakuni
Yeah.
bonsai tools,
Yeah,
right? We can get by with
Yeah.
with other
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
but maybe putting money into a high quality tree and into education, maybe that is a good thing to do. Yeah, and I guess another concept that I would say is I feel like you either pay with many things in life, either with money or with time.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
effort,
exactly
right?
what I was gonna say. Yeah,
Nice.
it's like because I mean trees can be expensive, especially I'm talking about this concept of age because it's just the time it takes to produce some things, and there's a lot of aspects in bonsai where I would say there's not true shortcuts. Expediting some processes is just trading off one thing for another. So really, when you're buying trees, you're paying for the time that somebody grew it, developed, their expertise and care. So I would say it is definitely in bad faith to think you can get high quality bonsai without investing time and without investing money, right? It's going to be one or the other. And the time aspect can then be on your resourcefulness and your passion in terms of how much you want to explore in bonsai yourself. But if time is not so available, or you have more pressing issues or kind of areas you need to invest your time in life, then of course it makes sense, right? Then you have to pay. Then essentially you're paying more upfront because that time is then being shouldered upon somebody else's expertise and time, and that's very normal, reasonable thing to expect. That's just everything, not
Absolutely.
just bonsai. But yeah, people think they're going to have fantastic quality trees without investing on either side, then that is kind of being dishonest. I would say then that's not possible.
For sure. Cool, man. Well, all right. So the first topic I wanted to pick your brain on and discuss is bonsai education. And I guess just kind of starting off, I'm going to say this is definitely an area where I would highly recommend people actually put money into. Maybe this is not where you want to save a bunch of money.
Yeah.
I think learning bonsai and maybe finding a good teacher could absolutely get you light years ahead of where you'd be at if you didn't have a good teacher.
Yeah.
So I guess with that said, my first question for you is how would you determine if you were a just getting into bonsai, how would you determine if someone is legit or not legit when it comes to bonsai?
So I wanted to kind of preface this question because there's I can't remember what it's called right now, but there's some kind of curve that is basically describing the trend between human kind of the confidence versus knowledge, or their perception of ability, right? Not their necessarily the aptitude. And then so I will find what this is called later. But it's a big thing. You can Google that. I just can't remember right now. But it's kind of in the beginning, right? You're building experience and you're building knowledge. But when you start out, especially as a beginner enthusiast or in any kind of practice and endeavor, it's the scope of knowledge is so broad that you can't even understand what you just don't know what you don't know, right? So it's impossible for you to kind of gauge then what's good and what's not good. So in this kind of graph, and then I'm sure some people will know what I'm talking about, but it's this sharp peak that rises really quickly, where essentially your confidence, your perceived ability and knowledge is really high, but your actual knowledge is really low, and they call it the peak of stupidity. And then you take a deep dive there when you realize holy crap, I don't know anything, I'm just dumb. And then you kind of build this progression over time where your knowledge gives you better discernment in terms of how to progress yourself further, access resources, And then it's just like this slow progression after this kind of peak where you dropped off, and then you start building true skill and knowledge. So at least so in my case, and I'd say most enthusiasts starting out, the volume of information out there now is just like so immense that, I mean, it's just kind of like overwhelming. And if you have, of course, when you start out, you don't have any basis for, what is good bonsai, what is not good bonsai. So it's kind of not possible for you to determine at that stage. So I think in the beginning, and especially when we're trying to encourage and work with new bonsai enthusiasts, it's really the wrong approach to like go just crap on some like whatever like newbie in bonsai, like, oh, this is, your tree is terrible, like your skills suck, you don't know what you're doing, because it's just that's how it's going to be. So I'd say in the beginning, you shouldn't even worry about what is good bonsai and not good bonsai. There's just a stage where you are just accruing information to just give yourself a base to work on. So I'd say like starting out, right, that's just not possible. If you have the eagerness to learn, I'd say that's the most important. And you can start building that kind of basis and skill set. I'd say once you're at a stage where you can understand all of these kind of basic concepts of bonsai, just some ideas of how people make trees. I'd say that's when it can be worthwhile to seek out a teacher. And in seeking out a teacher, I mean, the best way to go about it is just find somebody who has trees you like, right? I mean, you don't have to think about it very deeply. Like when you're starting out, be like, oh, this guy locally has these amazing looking trees. Well, let me see if I can learn from him. And it's not to say that's like the be all end all of bonsai, but you can then get a base to see, well, what does this guy do to make his trees look the way they look, regardless of whether it's good or bad. And I think once you start getting to that point where now you're discerning, if I do this work and this technique, there's this kind of result on the tree, then you can start getting some kind of gauge for, well, what do you like? And maybe it's not just all like subjective, right? Because some people say like bonsai is like a pure art, which I disagree. And I think there are some objective, irrespective of the style of the tree, there are some kind of objective bases to kind of identify qualities in the tree. And so I think the idea is that nobody can just be all-knowing and a master at the start, but you are just accruing information to better improve yourself and better inform yourself, right? Just like how we're making trees. It's like this progression, this process building. So yeah, I don't know if that's kind of answers your question, but yeah, but I think in the start, it's like not possible for somebody who's just started in bonsai to discern who's a good teacher, who's not a good teacher, what's quality bonsai, what's not. I think the scope of knowledge is just too big that maybe starting out, you might be able to understand some concepts, because I mean, it all can be reasoned and understood, but you'll just get snippets and not have the full picture. So I think very hard starting out to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't know what you don't know when you're first starting out, I guess. And I would 100% agree with you. I think that to find a good teacher, just looking at trees and seeing how good someone's garden is extremely important. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's interesting that you said, like, maybe you start with a club member that you just look up to and you like that person's trees in their garden. But after you've learned a little bit more, say maybe that's like at 3 months in, maybe once you're at a year in, you start looking online and you find someone that's a little bit further away from you, but the trees in their garden are like, way better than that person's trees, and you can find a secondary teacher. I really think people are only kind of as good as the trees within their garden, and that's a good way to judge someone ultimately. I feel like if you're learning under someone, your trees are only going to be kind of like as good as your teacher's trees are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
therefore it's a good thing to look at.
Yeah, I definitely would agree, and I would say like more appreciation as I've been practicing bonsai for longer and longer. I mean, just how broad the skill set can be. So I can say there's like a lot of value to be learned from different sources and different teachers. And this is not to say that, I mean, the wrong approach about this is to like constantly flip flop on your perspective in bonsai all the time, right? Oh, this guy says this, I have to start over and change everything. It's you have to kind of discern like, why is this guy doing something this way? Not just to take whatever they're telling you for granted. That way you can kind of pick people's brains and see different kind of perspectives and skill sets, and there's definitely then value to seeing different teachers and how they practice bonsai.
Nice. All right, so if let's say you found someone within a local club that you like this person's trees, but you want to get to that next level.
Yeah.
And I would say I really feel like this is a great area to put some money into. There's a lot of good programs, like a lot of bonsai professionals have seasonals or intensive programs, or maybe you want to go to Japan for a short amount of time. Personally, I feel like this is a great area to actually put some money into. If you do have a limited budget, just studying and learning really good quality bonsai from someone that really knows what they're doing, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Is that what you would recommend in terms of, you want to get to that next level?
I mean, so yeah, say you're after your initial stages and just your own kind of research and exploration. Of course, definitely like value to learn under somebody, because essentially you can benefit from it's like their wisdom and experience over time, and expedite the potential, I guess, pitfalls of time that you can just waste, right? So like putting work into trees with sloppy technique that doesn't pan out over time, instead of trying to like, right, just like hammer the same misshaped piece in over and over, and then you have to go through your own kind of the brute force learning process of making your own mistakes. That's of course when a teacher, right, can then give you that advice and wisdom in terms of, well, if you do this, there's this kind of result, and then you save time, right, in your own kind of bonsai journey and what you invest in your trees. I mean, for me, like personally, and like when I was learning, it's kind of weird, because actually my first, I'll say, very like, I guess, teacher was when I went to Japan. And so before that, I was just like a self-practicing hobbyist. So I just kind of would read anything online, watch everything on the internet. I would get books for bonsai and just mass consume like every information source all at once. And then I just like buy trees and test stuff out and try to learn that way. I'll say, like, of course, once I actually started my apprenticeship, as it doesn't have to be apprenticeship, but let's just say some kind of instruction, then it's like your perspective, right? It's just can be significantly broadened, and you can see, well, this is what I was doing that maybe doesn't work out so well, or there's some trade-offs. So definitely, I mean, if you can, right, say like with some kind of a reputable professional and they have a nice garden and trees, then doing, right, some kind of seasonal intensive studying with somebody is really good, because I mean, unless you are, and this is the other issue if you're starting out, right, maybe you don't have access to buy nice trees, which could be pretty expensive. So if you're then working on somebody and with another collection, you can have access to a lot of material you otherwise normally wouldn't see and work on. And that's definitely a means of expediting your knowledge. So I think definitely good if you can, right, to kind of like invest money in this area. But then kind of going back to the budget side, right? And then I know if you're, say you're like a student, a young professional, I mean, it's just maybe not financially feasible for everybody to spend like a weekend or a month and do some kind of intensive that, could potentially be pretty expensive. So another, I would say, good resource, and I did a little bit of this when I was a hobbyist, is depending on where you're located, see if there are any public collections. So public collections always need help and they always need volunteers. And if it's a well-run collection that's like has, I would say, I mean, the quality of trees is going to vary, but I would say as long as they have the right attitude and mindset towards bonsai, I mean, it's a great opportunity to learn at no cost to yourself, but your time. And so that's another, I would say, resource as well.
Nice. I like that. I kind of forgot about that as an option, but I think that's a good one. I was going to say, I feel like it's a good idea to try and find some type of teacher or mentor, and whether that's in your club or a bonsai professional. I really like the idea of a bonsai professional. If you can try and get in with that person and be valuable to them in some way, and I would say, I mean, definitely don't, people wouldn't want to just go up to a bonsai professional and say, teach me, don't charge me. That's very unfair and one-sided.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there's a lot of bonsai professionals where if you went in, you explain to them that, hey, you just really want to be around trees, you want to help out in any way. I feel like volunteering for things like weeding or sifting soil or moving heavy trees, like pretty much every bonsai professional needs help with those areas.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you can't just expect that, oh, I'm going to start working on trees, right after I do this one time. Yeah. But if you really are valuable to that bonsai professional, I just think that could be a good way to start learning and really show them that you are interested. And hopefully eventually the idea would be they would kind of take you under their wing and show you some things. I think if you're on a real budget, that might not be a bad option and way to go. But I also like the public collection thing. I think that's a great idea. Solid.
I mean, that's like a great point in terms of kind of like mentorship and kind of working with others. I mean, of course, Peter, I told you in the last podcast, kind of Peter sort of did that with me. He's very gracious when I came back from Japan, and I knew I still wanted to study and learn in some kind of serious capacity, not just like go straight and doing bonsai professionally. I mean, I just go to his work days, just help him out on just any and whatever, just whatever he wants. But then the side bonus, right, is then I can see nice trees, kind of learn about his technique and what he's doing. So definitely like building that kind of relationship it definitely has benefited me a lot. I'm very grateful for that. But I'd say, if you're approaching any professional, and I'd say like, especially I understand this like more now that I've been doing bonsai full time for the past year. I mean, I would assume most of the bonsai professionals are like really busy in terms of their time availability, how much they're working. And so, if you like approach somebody with some sense of entitlement and you're like, well, teach me this, blah, blah, blah.
Fastest way to turn someone off.
That's just like, that's just so disrespectful that you're taking somebody's experience and time for granted, which is I would say can be a painful process of accruing experience in bonsai. I mean, a lot of effort and kind of hardship involved. And so it's just kind of, it's like the golden rule, treat other people how you want to be treated. So approach professionals with respect. If you don't mesh well with them, don't take that personally. They could just be busy or something's going on. But then if you can build these relationships, right, where you can kind of mutually benefit, especially for younger people starting out, that can be a great way to intensively learn in bonsai. So that's a great suggestion.
Our bonsai professionals must just get blown up all the time, like with people asking, what do you think about this tree? Or like, my juniper,
Yeah.
are these brown needles okay on my juniper?
I know,
Like
yeah.
the number of pictures and messages that they must get
Yeah.
is got to be just insane. And I'm sure it would get very tiresome in answering those
Yeah.
types of questions.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I feel totally fine if they're like people I work with or I'm like kind of close to them. They're like my bonsai friends and whatever. No problem. Like talking to them and giving them some advice here and there. But it's just kind of like when I get to it. If I see the message, have some time, then I don't mind. But there's definitely like, and this is something I had to learn as well. There's like some kind of boundary setting where if you're like the yes man like too much, man, some people don't know. They will not stop. So I've had a little bit of that issue. Sometimes people just, I think, take for granted that I'm just treating them very nicely and you're just asking for more and more and more. And I'll say in those cases, yeah, definitely don't do that, because even though bonsai is like your hobby and we're all very passionate about it, if it's a professional and it's also their livelihood, right, then kind of take that into account that there's their own time and it's nothing personal, but something just to respect for any profession.
Absolutely, man. Your time is your most valuable asset, and I think it's very important that you learn to say no at the appropriate times within your life. And this is just
Yeah.
important for bonsai, but important for
Oh yeah,
just life in general.
Life lessons. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. Cool, man. Well, kind of backing up just a little bit, besides a bonsai professional, I mean, there are a lot of really good online resources and just resources out there to learn bonsai. What are some of those resources that you like? Like where, I mean, I feel like the problem is if someone just starts looking up bonsai on YouTube, for example, there's some really good stuff and then there's some not so good stuff.
Yeah. So like what I did when I started out, because I just quickly, I mean, when I started out, it's like I was really just getting sucked into it. I was like, and I was very enthusiastic and just, I mean, it was pretty much like obsession when I started out in bonsai. I just had to try to learn everything I can. It's just like nonstop. But I just quickly realized, I was like, man, there's just so much information that I don't even know where to start. And kind of my strategy to basically give me a base to work from is that before I kind of went crazy on the internet, I just bought books, which is right, it's going to be from one perspective, written by one person, and it's going to have some kind of experience and scope in bonsai. So I think when I first started out, the book was from like I think a UK author, Tom Tomlinson. I might have been like Harry Tomlinson, and it was maybe it was just like the Book of Bonsai, or it just said bonsai on the cover. But I think I started out just with like a book like that, which just basically covers all the basics, bonsai philosophy, different species and techniques. And so you can start getting an idea of what to learn. I mean, I'll say then with YouTube, right, that's like very tough because I don't want to be unfair where I say like just some information is great and some information is terrible, because in the YouTube channels, I'll say the expectations of the different YouTube professionals and artists on there, their goals are just different. I mean, they're just operating on different interest levels in bonsai. So maybe a very serious hobbyist and practitioner will find like this YouTube channel made by an amateur hobbyist who's just spouting their advice, and it's very easy to see that and just be like, this is terrible, which I mean it could very well be, but they are kind of like advocating for just a very casual enthusiast or maybe the non-bonsai practitioner, which then from their perspective, people probably enjoy that. So also when you're starting out, it's kind of like you're trying to find where to place yourself. Are you just kind of in the beginning, and it's totally fine if you're just casually getting into bonsai? But then definitely as you delve more into it, you have to discern like what is the quality of the information, right? Then that definitely matters. But I think, yeah, I stuck to just, I remember I read that book, and then another like online kind of blog style bonsai resource. It was like Harry Harrington's website, like Bonsai for Me. And then it was like a pretty large, like just centralization of bonsai articles. And I remember when I first started out as a hobbyist, it was kind of a good, I like read all of them because it just gave me a starting point just to find information, which in the beginning, when you're just learning basic horticulture and techniques, I mean, a lot of these teachers, the core information is generally true. I'd say in the start, it's a little bit where, yeah, it's like how are they supposed to pick what is a good teacher and not a good teacher? And then by the same token, let's say the most kind of highest production quality YouTube content or online content, we have like Bjorn and Ryan, right, in their respective learning platforms. I am very willing to bet that if you took a brand new beginner enthusiast and you just put them on their platform from the get-go, I mean, they will feel like overwhelmed or even put off by bonsai just because the expectation is just so much higher that if you're getting a new enthusiast and just putting them straight into that, it can feel like almost like too overwhelming or kind of, I hate to put it this way. This is not like a criticism, but kind of like elitist, where it's like, oh, this is like, I'm like here, but they're like way up there. I can't even approach this. So I don't know if it's the right approach when somebody's starting out, that the best teacher for them is necessarily like the highest skilled teacher. Because if you're just starting out in bonsai, it's probably like in the upper end that knowledge is not even relevant to you yet. That you're really, one, trying to maintain the enthusiasm and passion. That's like the most important. And then just having the mindset of just wanting to learn and continuously improve. It's like the Toyota manufacturing principle, like Kaizen or something, where it's just like constant improvement, right? So you can adopt that principle when any kind of practice and study something you want to learn. Yeah, so I still like, yeah, struggle with that question. It's like how are you supposed to choose what is the right teacher for you? Because if we were to approach this subject as purely as a skill and knowledge based thing, like a pure meritocracy, I can't pronounce but then it's just be like all the top professionals or whatever would be the teachers. Which, like, a lot of times I think, like, oh, maybe that would be a great thing. But I think there's some kind of balance, especially people starting out, that the expectation can't just be so high where the new enthusiast, it's like, well, either you're on, like, the whatever, Ryan or Bjorn camp, or you're just, like, some crappy bonsai noob who just sucks at what they do. That kind of, like, big divide is not the right approach, I think, because very easy to I would say, like, what's the word I'm trying to think of, but it can discourage a lot of enthusiasts. So yeah, definitely the goal is to provide people with good quality information, but not as a kind of exclusive thing.
What do you think would discourage a new person? Mm-hmm. Just overload? Is it information overload, like with Bjorn and like Ryan?
An overload of information, and say in like the upper end of bonsai practice, like realistically, when you're starting out, you probably don't have half the material they're showing, like, or any of the material they're showing the example work on, which if you're a professional, and I understand this as well, you want to show your best work and on the best trees, because of course, like, who wouldn't? You want to show your ability to its highest professional and work at your highest standard. But then if you are starting out and you don't even have that kind of access or material to even do that work on, then how much relevance does it have actually to you? And I think to completely ignore that, right, then that's where you can divide the group of bonsai enthusiasts into camps of like, I would say you can have very experienced practitioners who are quote unquote in the know through their professionals, friends, whatever. And then just the more casual enthusiast who's maybe just learning from whatever articles online or a casual YouTube channel here and there. But I think it's important to kind of bridge the gap between those two extremes, because if we just focus only on the latter or kind of the high end, that's good for improving and growing the existing bonsai community, like the existing pool of members. But say if the goal is then to grow bonsai as a more nationally recognized art, say like in the US, to have people take it more seriously, which across the board, that'll benefit all the professionals and practitioners. If there's this kind of, I would say, perspective shift from the public, there's like a lot of value there, I think, to outside of the immediate community. Like, how do you grow bonsai? I think that's pretty important.
Interesting points. And the Bjorn Ryan streaming platforms thing is very interesting. I guess just to be very straightforward, I was thinking those are great resources for new people.
I mean, definitely the quality of information is good. I think they do have their own respective like beginner catered courses as well, in which case that probably can be suited, right, for the starting enthusiast. But I just meant to differentiate like people who are practicing bonsai on the high end and in terms of their experience and knowledge base, and just contrasting that with the beginner enthusiast who's just like starting from nothing, right? And
yeah. Gotcha. Makes sense. I guess, like first off, I've subscribed to both platforms I really like both of them. I think that
I mean, it's great, high quality produced content.
Yeah. Very, very good content. But I guess, like if you were just starting out, maybe it would be a little too advanced. I mean, the majority of the videos, they are working on pretty good material. Yeah. So I could see that. And maybe more like a larger beginner section might be good. But I like those two streaming sites quite a bit. I think that they have some great content on there.
I brought those up because those are probably right now the two in the US. I don't know other countries what other professionals are providing, but definitely in the US, the best like kind of online bonsai content, I would say, in terms of like quality and then the skill of the professionals, of course, as well.
Nice. Very cool. So I wrote down a list of good free online resources that I really like. I was hoping
to hear them.
You could give me your opinion on them, and then also please add to any. I like the Harry's website you mentioned earlier. I think that's a great one. He has quite a few like before and after pictures, right?
Yeah. I mean, after I've like, especially get more invested into bonsai. I mean, it's not that I like and follow all his work 100%, but then from the perspective of me, like 10 years ago, trying to learn bonsai, I felt the blogs were a great resource just to get that kind of starting point.
Yeah. Very nice. So speaking of blogs, my number one is Peter T's Bonsai blog.
Yes.
Which he wrote while he was in Japan. It's still on his site. So if you Google Peter T Bonsai, I still think that is just a fantastic blog. There's lots of really good, useful information there, and it's totally free.
Yeah. Agreed.
Another blog, probably there. I think I have three favorite blogs. So Peter T, Michael Hagedorn, number 2. His blog been going on for a very, very long time. Such great information on there. Lots of beautiful pictures. Love his website in general. It's just on his website. And then I'd say probably my third is Jonas Bonsai Tonight.
Yeah.
He's probably written more articles than anybody.
Probably the most, by far, the most probably the most active and substantive bonsai blog on the internet right now. Definitely agree with your three nominations for online bonsai blogs. Those are like probably the best three.
Yes, love those three. Also, love your website. You've been adding some good blog posts. Please keep those up. Really enjoy the deciduous one that we talked about last time, and some really great information that you're sharing. So I really appreciate that. I hope you keep it up. On Bjorn's site at ACN, I really like his guidebooks. So he has one on watering tools, species guides. I think those are good. Just kind of some general information like, hey, keep your deciduous under shade cloth, in the hot of summer. And here is kind of just some rough guidelines for the specific species. I like those a lot. Also, ACN has some free stuff on YouTube as well, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And Bjorn's videos just on YouTube in general are very good.
Yeah.
That's probably, is that how you found out about ACN? Or excuse me, not ACN, Fujikawa Kokain?
Yeah. Well, I definitely first knew of it from Bjorn's channel, because at the time in Bjorn's early kind of the Bonsai Art of Japan series, I mean, that was probably the highest quality like bonsai content on YouTube in those span of years. So of course, not only for like myself, but many hobbyists and practitioners saw that, right, and were really inspired. It's like, oh, look at all these amazing trees from Japan in a video that was clean, not super grainy, and fairly well produced. So there's some information and so that was the first time I found Kokain. But I didn't think when I first started, I was like, oh, well, now I want to study there. That was just kind of coincidental later. It just happened. But definitely was, I would say, as an early hobbyist, Bjorn's YouTube is definitely an inspiration just to see like such amazing trees and really to think about the potential in bonsai.
Solid.
So, yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Ryan Neal also has species care notes on his site, which I think are great, free.
Yeah.
The Bonsai Wire podcasts are free. I really like those ones. I think those are fantastic. Those have Jonas, Eric, Andrew, Michael, a whole bunch of hosts and other guests that are great. Eric Schrader's YouTube videos are really, really good. I love those ones. Some Japanese videos that I really like, Bonsai Shinshi, I think.
I love that. Love that channel also. Really good.
Yeah, they have really great progressions that'll show you like at year 1, 2, and 3, just with different techniques that are applied. They do a lot of like air layering, healing wounds, removing branches. Lots of really cool techniques are shown on that. And then lastly, I have a newer thing that I found.
Yeah.
So if you go on YouTube, you can find like presentations and some from Andrew Robson, Jonas, Bjorn. Some are through the Golden State Bonsai Federation.
Oh, yeah.
I've enjoyed just going through those presentations and watching them. I think those are some good free information for people.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any ones to add? I missed a ton, I'm sure. But
I mean, that's like a pretty good list. I'm sure others will pop up later on. And so I definitely agree with all the resources you recommended. I mean, all very excellent, skilled professionals who are providing, top quality information. Kind of going back to my point earlier, I mean, I feel it's like easy for like you or me or any like serious enthusiast or professional then to discern what's good information and what not. But then if we're going back to the basis of the kind of beginner hobbyist perspective, it's like, how do they even know to go to learn from these resources? So I feel that is still like a challenge where it's basically up to them to also discern. It's like there's kind of no way to handhold everybody through every process. I would say more so that as a whole, the expectation and standard of bonsai gets higher, then it's kind of irrespective of where you learn from, the information quality will increase. because I think, I mean, I've looked through all of those professionals and resources you mentioned, especially when I was starting out as a hobbyist. But it's not like I like knew to look at those. It's just by kind of process of elimination of just brute force looking at everything on the internet that you come across some like great resources and blogs. But definitely top recommendations. I agree.
Solid. Very cool. Very cool. And then I guess lastly on the education thing, and if you have any other points you wanted to make, would love to hear.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
what, like, how can someone study with you right now, Julian?
Oh, sure. All right, yeah, I can do a plug-in. I mean, right now, I would say I do. I want to say mostly private work, but I do have study groups I set the calendar for the year. So I have that on my website. If people just go to my website, justbonsai.com, in the kind of class schedule, I'll have, I think, study groups resuming from September, and essentially have 3 locations in Southern California, which is San Diego, then kind of like north-ish part of LA. Well, the group's in North Hollywood, and then I have one group in West LA. So I kind of have those as central locations if just anybody wants to participate and just contact me.
Nice.
But then, of course, I'll do like private work. So if people are interested in kind of one-on-one type work, then I should be easy to get in contact with and can do some kind of a program from there. But I guess, yeah, it depends where you're located. I mean, right now, I mean, Southern California, I'm willing to travel a lot. Anything I do, like out of state, basically would have to be with some kind of a group or club or people bringing me out for a few days. And then so I will have like some groups outside California. But easiest way is just to contact me and can arrange in any
Sweet.
kind of format. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend anyone in SoCal to go study with you. I think that would be an excellent use of your budget. I think you're one of the best teachers in Southern California. So great work, man.
Jeremiah, saying that. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other points about education? Education on a budget? I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we covered quite a lot of broad topics, but I'll say when you're first starting out, you don't really like worry yet, right? I mean, later you can think about it, but it's too early to think about like, is this tree good? Is this tree not good? Like, oh, I should use this technique because some professional said. You're just building the foundation for your knowledge, just getting an idea of what things are about, just basic concepts in bonsai. And with that kind of perspective, I mean, there's so many resources you can learn from. I mean, it could be your local club, just online bonsai blogs. I mean, even like the YouTube channels from some of the more kind of casual enthusiasts, it probably can still get a new hobbyist up to speed, just getting an idea of like, well, just some concepts in bonsai, and you can just progress from there. What you were saying about finding in person or some kind of teacher, really great recommendation, because to kind of expedite your learning, if you can see material that has been developed well or is in a much further state of maturity, it really gets you thinking in terms of, well, how did they make that tree? What were some of the processes employed? And that you can benefit basically from other people's experience and expedite that learning pathway. So kind of there's definitely more than one approach to learn. I would say not just one way is going to be the right way, but definitely be open-minded. And just if you're serious, right, then you can constantly seek new resources and just don't take information for granted, right? You have to be, I like to say, like an active learner where it's not just this guy said something, so it's true, and now I'm a puppet of this teacher and I will repeat what he says. it's like, why are they doing this? And to understand that is then to improve your understanding in bonsai, and you can kind of further your skill sets from there.
Solid, man. Solid.
Yeah.
I would say you should just make it happen with education. You know, if you have to sleep in the back of your truck or whatever to go to a bonsai intensive, like I've definitely done that before, and I would highly recommend it if you're just starting out. And then in the future, you'll probably have more budget and you can spend more money and be more comfortable, but make it happen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Let's talk a little bit more about trees. So when it comes to trees, I guess my thoughts would be, I really think it's a good idea for someone to put money into trees. And so far, we're not doing very good in saving a whole lot of budget, right?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like you should probably buy maybe just a few high quality trees that will really push you and make sure that you work on them during the proper time and proper season, and you really try your best to make that material into something great. Other than that, I mean, I think that you can start another good recommendation, I think personally, but maybe not for everybody, would be to start growing things from a very early age if you are on a budget and a younger person. So seed cutting and air layer, I think that is absolutely a way to go. Grow some trunks with some nice nabari, and then have a few other trees that are a little further along in the process. I think it's good to have some variety. You're going to learn from both types of trees. But I would definitely buy some nice stuff and then start some cheap stuff, which will be great in time and with a lot of effort.
Yeah, definitely agree on those points. It's really good to have trees in different stages of development, because the reality, if you're starting every material from a very early stage of development, right, some kind of air layer, cutting, seedling, whatever, I mean, there are periods in that tree's development that you are just letting that tree grow, and that's just the reality. It's like not exciting, no fancy technique or work. It's just, I mean, there will be some guidance in that process, right? You're directing the tree to grow in a way you want, but the intervals for work can be like ridiculously spaced apart. Like maybe say you're growing primary branches on the tree and you have like a 5-inch trunk, something like a decent size. I mean, you probably at least want your primary branches to be an inch, maybe inch and a half, that first segment. So it has some kind of substantive weight, looks interesting on the tree. So definitely I see hobbyists get into pitfalls where they're just so focused on that. I need this tree now. I want to make it faster. And they try to expedite the process. But you just end up curbing the future potential of the tree. And you just can end up, say, with like crappy branches, no structure, and then the quality of the tree just greatly diminishes over time. So having trees at different stages of development is good. So at least you have less of that urgency, like, oh, I have to do something to this. But of course, you still should kind of understand, like, you know, what you're doing. Don't just cut your tree or whatever by default. I mean, when I started out, I remember my first, I would say like my first 3 trees. I went to one was San Gabriel Nursery, kind of long time nursery in my place. I'm actually wearing their 100th anniversary shirt right now. Maybe it says San Gabriel Nursery. Yeah, they had that event like 2 weeks ago, and so I bought what was it? Oh, it was like a root over rock trident. I actually sold that tree. I don't have that tree anymore. But I also went to another nursery in LA, as a House of Bonsai, and I got a $15 basically ficus cutting, and another like a juniper in a 1-gallon pot. The juniper, I'm just like turning it into Niwaki now, so I didn't even develop as bonsai. But the ficus I have, and and I kind of show the progression on my website. So I have like a few shohin trees that I just made completely from nothing, just from cutting. But it took like 10 years just to get them to now. I'm finally beginning that refinement. So a lot of those intermediate stages, like I was just growing trunks and branches, setting those kind of core features in the tree. So kind of not exciting work. But if you're doing bonsai in the long run, it's really nice to have these projects on the side because, I mean, as long as you care and work on them, I mean, they will always get better. And it's very satisfying to see something you've just made and grown yourself. But yeah, if you can, getting some nicer trees in the mix as well. It's, in a sense, good if you can work on like refined trees because there's some kind of, and this is like how it was I felt when I was apprenticing, where you learn the once you start understanding why a certain tree is good, you can sort of like reverse engineer that and to think about, well, what did somebody have to do 10 years ago to get this tree to such an estate right now that I can do such and such work on it. So seeing different stages of development, right, is really good to, of course, for your own collection and to develop your skills. Just because the scope of progression in bonsai spans so much time that if you can get trees at all those respective intervals, then you can kind of simultaneously learn and develop everything at once. Yeah.
Great points. Yeah. Yeah. Great if you have trees in different stages, learn. Mm-hmm. They're very much different skills often, like refinement as opposed to growing primary branches or trunk or nabari. Some of them, they definitely overlap, and just generally working on trees is good. But I think it's just a great idea to have trees in all areas. So I'm glad you agree there.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think one way of obtaining trees without or on a budget is through Yamadori or urban Yamadori.
Yes. Yeah.
I think collecting in the local neighborhood is a great way to get started. I feel like, often no cost or very low cost. I do think that you should get comfortable with talking with people and asking them if they are, if they are interested in that particular landscaping tree in their yard still, or just asking for permission. And often I think offering a little bit of money is a good idea just to make the conversation a little bit easier and just make it not so one-sided. So you're just taking something from somebody. But I think it's just a great way to get experience and not have to spend a lot of money on trees. Start digging urban Yamadori up, or trees in the local neighborhood.
Yeah. Because if you just go on like Craigslist, you can see people just like wanting to remove hedges and stuff. And sometimes they'll be like, whatever, it could be junipers, boxwoods, and any species. And sometimes it's worthwhile. I mean, because for them, it's like they're trying to get rid of the hedges. So for them, like they should kind of be paying you in a sense. So they think they're getting a great deal. And then you feel like you're getting a great deal because maybe you dug up like a 50-plus-year-old tree, which is kind of that age attributes, right? You can't develop yourself. And so that's kind of like a win-win, like both parties are happy. So definitely worthwhile to do some like leg work and searching around. Just doesn't hurt to ask. And of course, be like respectful and courteous when you're asking landowners and property owners. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a whole skill in itself, just talking with people, having the confidence to go up to them, explain to them what you're doing, have them not think that you're a total weirdo, and just be super friendly when you do it, so that hopefully they're willing to allow you to dig up that tree. Most definitely.